All right.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursday for the Sabby and JB show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. We have quite a show tonight. I think you'll get some laughs out of it. I think you'll also learn quite a bit as well. Tonight's theme is You May Be Shocked. You may be shocked, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and start out by giving shout outs to people in the chat. What is going on? Shout out to GG. Hello, Sabby. Looking forward to this live. What Martin Lawrence do now? I remember he freaked out on Gina and others in 97. Yeah, it's not even a matter of what Martin did. It's just he has come back into the spotlight. The show Martin has come back into the spotlight because of a statement that was made by a entertainer, and we'll get into all that. I think it brings up some interesting points, but I hope that, when I cover this story, I hope that what you take away from this is that at the end of the day, you really can't look to anyone else to make you feel good about yourself. So we'll get into all of that. My favorite Martin episode of all time was the island and that damn puppy. Yeah, that one was funny. Greetings, Victoria. Gotta say, Nick mopped the floor with Tucker. Oh God, I told you guys, you may be shocked. We're really gonna get into it today. Interesting. Greetings, my father's son. It's fake outrage over the Martin Lawrence show. Yeah, we'll get into it, man. We'll get into it. And I think that's Rollo in your picture there from Sanford and Son. Greetings, just me. Hey, Sabby, I hope you were able to watch Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens on her podcast. It was very interesting. I did. And, it's not even just, it's funny. It's not even just Tucker and Nick Fuentes that are having a spat. Nick Fuentes is not too happy with Candace Owens right now as well. Quite a bit is going on, folks. Greetings, Blockbuster says hi. Shout out to Ellen sends love. Greetings, Randy says Oaks and Doakley. A Sabby Sab Sunday has brightened my outlook. Shout out to Kawan says, my thing about Tucker Carlson is he does all these fluffy interviews with everybody, but he doesn't do any hard-hitting interviews. If he was hitting people with hard-hitting interviews, and maybe I'll believe more in him and less than Nick. I don't like Nick that much, but I do watch his show. I do think he is for free palace Indian people. Hashtag mega free Palestine Indian people. Interesting. Shout out to Hannah says, sup. Greetings, Skylar says, hey, Sabby and Co. Hey, everyone. I hope you all having a great weekend and have an even better week ahead. I hope so, too. I had a lot of fun this weekend. Greetings, Mumu. I just saw an MSNBC interview in a Zionist about how the famine is Hamas' fault and that Gazans, who he speaks to all the time, want Hamas gone. So I'm glad you're here to wipe that clean out of my memory. Yeah, there's a lot of propaganda going on right now, folks. Imagine blaming Hamas when Israel was actively starving the people. Imagine that. Greetings, Anna says, hello all. Shout out to Justice by Karma. I think those are emojis there that I can't see on StreamYard, but what is up? Shout out to Daniela says, hi, everyone. Greetings, Corn says, holy crap, it's Sabby Sabs. What's up, Corn? Shout out to Asha says, OMG, I love your channel. Been watching since discovering it last month. Well, welcome. Welcome. Shout out to James. Good evening, all. Greetings, Cindy says, hi from Australia. We got the internationals in the chat. Shout out to Vegan Gaga says, greetings, Sabby. Let's go. And greetings, Breakthrough says time. I think it says time is ticking. And shout out to A&A says, hi, excited to hear you. What is up? What is up? We have so much to discuss, ladies and gents. Why don't you start us off right by smashing that like? We're going to give a shout out here to patrons, and then we're going to dive right in. I don't want to keep you waiting for too long, because time keeps on ticking into the future. All right. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, we have a couple of categories here. I think it's 5. Ultimate. We have Sabinators. We also have Sabsters. Don't forget about those Sabbies. They're pretty cool too. I think they are. I think you think they are. And we also have a group called Members. Shout out to everyone. You can see all of their names here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. And I want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for Sarah S. Max and Kathleen Mullis. Thank you and welcome. Welcome to one and all. That's right. That's right. Okay. Quite so much to get into. This is probably going to be one of my favorite shows because we have a little bit of seriousness here, and we also have some comedy mixed in. So I like to mix it up a little bit here and there. Again, the theme is You May Be Shocked. Let's go ahead and show you that beautiful thumbnail that we are displaying. Dun, dun, dun. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're discussing tonight. If you haven't seen this, this is going to be hilarious as hell. Tucker Carlson versus Nick Fuentes. Is there a class war happening between the two? It seems like there was a class issue that was brought up. Whoa. Whoa. Yes, we're getting into that, ladies and gentlemen. We are also going to discuss, if you haven't heard about this and you've seen the show Martin, I was a big fan of that show. Probably one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. If you've never seen it, it is now on Netflix. You can watch it, or if you have seen it, you can watch it all over again on Netflix. Martin Lawrence Backlash. That's right. That show in particular is receiving backlash. That is Martin Lawrence there in the pink rectangle. What it do? What did Martin do? What he do? Oh my God. We're also discussing, ladies and gentlemen, this is a big story coming out of New York City. Hundreds of protesters showed up at Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand's office to protest their support for Israel. The person there that's in that yellow rectangle, that is Tiffany Caban. She is one of the counselors, one of the council members for New York City, and she was at that protest, and she's one of the ones that was arrested. That's not the part that's going to shock you, though, when we get to that story. Wait for it. We're also going to discuss comedian Bill Burr has some things to say. He is calling out corporate media. He's calling out billionaires. He is venting. Bill Burr has had enough, damn it. Bill Burr has had enough. And last but not least, I think this story might be the most shocking one if you have not heard about it. Columbia University, yes, they are implementing cash reparations, but not for who you would think. We're going to get into that story. Get yourselves comfortable, get some popcorn. There's a lot going on out here in these streets. Again, the theme is you may be shocked. So let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, I just want to tell you guys, if you are in the Boston area, I did something pretty cool over the weekend. And if you're a fan of the show Family Guy, I think you need to check this out. There is a Family Guy pop-up at West End Johnny's in Boston. I don't know if you've ever been to West End Johnny's, but it's a bar in the West End neighborhood in Boston, and they now have a Family Guy pop-up. So they turned part of that bar, the downstairs portion, they turned it into the Family Guy, like the show Family Guy. So you'll see, instead of the sign West End Johnny's at the top, you see the Drunken Clam, and there's me there. I was pretty, I had a good time. It's fun. If you're in the area and you want to check it out, I say check it out. Also, there was a family. Let me show you guys this, okay? Because let me see if I can go back to that other one. There was a family that showed up and they were dressed as Family Guy. Here it is. Here we go. Here's a couple more pictures. So you get to sit at the news desk. That's me and my sister. That was fun. And then there's the family. That's what I was going to tell you guys. This blew me away. I was like, oh my God, it's a real life Peter, Meg, and Lois. It was so adorable. Could you imagine, her and her parents must be really close, right? Could you imagine like doing that with your parents and stuff like that? It was funny as hell. And then did I take a picture of you have the booth as well too. Like the Drunken Clam bar. And then I just took a picture there of like the living room section there. So yeah, if you're in the Boston area, definitely check that out. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but I do know, according to the calendar, when I booked the tickets, it does look like it's there for at least the rest of the month of August. So when these pop-up happened, like if you're able to go, try to go, because pop-ups don't last that long. So yeah. Upred said Family Guy funny moments. Yeah. It's pretty cool. I love these pop-ups and I hope they continue to do them. Okay. But we got other things to get into tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the theme is you may be shocked. Let's go ahead and get into our first story. Hella of a protest in New York City over the weekend outside of Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand's office. Of course, they are the New York senators in D.C., in the Senate. And these protesters, part of them were Jewish Voices for Peace, but there were also city councilors that were present at the protest as well. Let me go ahead and bring this up and show you. This is shared from Democracy Now! Breaking news: Jewish peace activists have occupied the lobby of Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand's offices in New York to protest the senators' votes against halting arms shipments to Israel. Activists banged pots and pans to oppose Israel's starvation of Palestinians in Gaza. And you can see the picture here. And I would say they're doing the right thing, right? Like, you go directly to the source. You don't go to other people. You go directly to the source. And we have to remember, we covered that vote last week. There was legislation that was brought to a vote in the Senate to stop sending at least the part of the arms to Israel, not defensive, by the way, but offensive weapons to Israel. And Kirsten Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer were among some of the 17 senators that did not vote for that bill. And we'll explain to you why. Of course, they would not support it. You guys know they are very much pro-Israel. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, for one, if you just want to see how much money she has taken from AIPAC, over $997,000. She's also a racist. Let's not forget the things that Kirsten Gillibrand said about Zoran Mandami. I'm telling you, people really show you who they are. It doesn't really matter what party they are in. There are racists that are Democrats as well. And Kirsten Gillibrand really showed her whole ass when she came after him the way that she did. So she's one of them. That's the AIPAC, tracking AIPAC. Remember, there's also J Street. So there are other lobby interest groups that support and benefit Israel, not just AIPAC. There's J Street. There's also Kufi. So let's keep that in mind. Chuck Schumer, you guys know as well. What did he tell you? He said, my job is to keep the left pro-Israel. Not that my job is to help my constituents in New York. No, my job is to keep the left pro-Israel. Those were his words during an interview that he had fairly recently. And you can see that Chuck Schumer has taken over $1.7 million from AIPAC to support Israel. So we got to be very clear here. There are a number of politicians that are in DC that are just solely there, as Chuck Schumer pointed out, and as Ted Cruz also made very clear, to support Israel, not so much their constituents. It's also interesting, before people criticize the way that they chose to protest, I want to show you an example of where they tried to do this in other ways to reach Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. These were rabbis here. This was earlier July. I think this was July 7th. Jewish rabbis who believe in Judaism and not Zionism had a clear message for Schumer. Israel is committing a genocide and making everyone less safe. And you can see this here. I think Code Pink was also present.
We are here in Senator Schumer's office. He's about to meet today with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. And we, Jewish people, and so many other pro-peace people who are here to deliver a message and to discourage Senator Schumer from supporting blindly the state of Israel, which is a catastrophe for Palestine. It's unfortunately a genocide going on, which no one should tolerate. And what we would like to explain is it's dangerous for the Jewish people as well. This is not in favor of anyone. And as Americans, we shouldn't support a criminal foreign country.
And you are New Yorkers. Do you think your senator ought to listen to New Yorkers?
We are New Yorkers. That's why we are here. We hope that Senator Schumer will listen to us. And we hope that other politicians will listen to the righteous voice the world over, because the world no longer takes what is going on.
I would call this a sit-in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so far they have refused to send anybody out to talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
But we are patient.
Yeah, and they were patient, and that was the same day that Chuck Schumer was meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. So it's not as if these attempts have not been done before, and Chuck Schumer apparently wanted to ignore them. Or imagine this, ignoring your own constituents, but you're going to meet Benjamin Netanyahu. Let that sink in. So the protest did happen this weekend. Over 150 Jewish people and allies, actor Sarah Ramirez and elected Tiffany Caban and Claire Valdez with Jewish Voices for Peace are occupying the offices of Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. Check it out here, folks. Yeah, awesome stuff there, ladies and gentlemen. Again, they're doing what they should be doing. They're going directly to their representatives and confronting them about the way that they have chosen to vote. Here's another video here that I want to share with you.
No genocide, no genocide, Freedom's what we're fighting for. No more weapons, no more war. Freedom's what we're fighting for.
Yeah, so as you can see there, they started to arrest people. Kirsten Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer can ignore this all they want to, but your constituents have spoken. Now, among the people that were arrested, Tiffany Caban, who is a New York City council member, she was one of the ones arrested as well. Check this out.
Let Gaza live. Stop starving Gaza. Let Gaza live. Stop starving Gaza. Stop starving Gaza. Let Gaza live. Stop starving Gaza. Let Gaza live. Stop starving Gaza. Let Gaza live.
Now that's Tiffany right there. Well, they both have on glasses, but Tiffany is the one with the ponytail and the glasses. And I just want to say this. She's a city councilor. She doesn't have to be out there if she didn't want to. That's what it looks like to fight for your constituents. That's what it looks like to fight for the people. Like, she knows what Israel is doing is wrong. But again, a lot of the politicians, they don't participate in, in these protests. So she doesn't have to, but she is. I think that's what I mean when I say fighting back against the power structures.
Stop starving Gaza. Let Gaza live. 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 Stop starving Gaza. Let Gaza live.
And yeah, people are like, well, they're banging pots and they're making noise. They should make noise at this point. I mean, it's interesting that they are arresting them, but they're not arresting these criminal politicians. They're not arresting Chuck Schumer. They're not arresting Kirsten Gillibrand. They let Netanyahu walk right into this country and speak in front of Congress. They're not addressing, arresting him. They're arresting the people that are on the right side of history. And we've seen these moments in our country before. So everybody need to pay attention. And again, I applaud them. Here's a closer shot here of Tiffany and the rest of them when they were arrested.
Us both, Claire. You're conscious and let them stand. And any politician who's not president out of New York. Stop starving Gaza. Let Gaza live. 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 Stop starving Gaza.
We're here to stand in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza who are being starved to death right now. It needs to stop. They're using USA dollars to help them do it, and it has to end.
Free Palestine!
Yeah, again, they're the ones that are on the right side of history. Now, sometimes when these protests happen, there are people that will show up to give them choice words. There was a Zionist that showed up, and I just want to give everybody fair warning. We're not going to be able to play everything that he says because some things we can't just play on here, but it's very, very foul. This gentleman walked up to the building and started yelling obscene things at the protesters. And I will say this again, this does not help Israel's cause. It just shows people just how unhinged Zionists are. And this idea of supremacy and how they take it to such an extent where they feel like they can say and do anything because they know that they're not going to be held accountable. They know that nothing is going to happen to them. Check this out. This guy here should give everybody pause. You may be shocked about this.
Drop dead, drop dead, drop dead. You fucking bitch. You should be raped. You deserve it. You fuck. You're not a Jew, you're a cunt.
Did you hear what he just said? He said that they should be, we'll say, graped on here. What is the obsession from Zionists with sexual assault? Why are they always threatening to grape people? Everybody already know this, and they want to put that on Hamas, but they're the ones literally out there threatening to great people. This ain't the first time. It's been multiple times where we've seen several videos of them making this threat towards people who are protesting. Now, these protesters are inside the building. He approached them, but watch in so many different ways. Like I said before, he will try to find a way to make it seem like he is the victim. This is the face of supremacy. What you are seeing, what this guy is saying here, the way that he approaches them and threatens sexual violence on them, that's supremacy. He goes on.
You're no Jew. Look at you. You're disgusting. You vile, disgusting pieces of shit. All of you should drop dead. You're lucky I don't have a gun because I take a machine gun and kill you all last.
Now he's wishing death on them. Now he's saying you're lucky that he doesn't have a weapon that he can't use against them.
Filth. Filth. Filth, you fuck. Fuck. Piece of shit. You're not a Jew, you fucking piece of shit. Drop dead, all of you. You can put that on wherever you want.
I got a video of you threatening to shoot them and rape them.
Good. They deserve it. Anyone who supports this shit, it's a disgrace.
You see what he did there? He's threatening to shoot them. And he believes he has the right to do that because of what he was taught. This is why I said Zionism is a cancer. And I don't know. I feel like the cure is to weed it out. The cure is to denounce Zionism. It's a cancer. This idea that they can treat anybody else however they want to, they can say whatever they want to anybody, but the moment that you respond to them, the moment that you try to hold them accountable, you're the problem. You're the problem, not them, even when they started. Let me let him finish here.
You're not a Jew. None of you are disgraceful. And Gaza, it's Hamas who's keeping the food, you morons, if not even half of it. I hope you're all raped, and I hope this guy puts it on. Fuck. Looking at your...
Anybody know this guy? If you live in New York, anybody know him?
Nail polish.
Nobody went up to him. Nobody approached him. That is absolutely disgusting and vile. But he will play the victim. They have been doing this for years. Nobody confronted him. This is the danger about supremacy. This is what I've been trying to tell people. This idea that you can do whatever you want to whoever you want that is not you or does not approve of your idea of supremacy. How is this any different? And this is what I've been trying to tell people before. If you go back and you watch those old video footage, and some that still exists today, you watch the old video footage of the KKK burning crosses, intimidating people. How is this behavior any different? When you see the way that they treat Palestinians, or in this case, not even Palestinians, most of the people protesting were Jewish. But because they don't agree with his ideology, he said that they should all drop dead. He said, you're lucky that I don't have weapon with me. This is the mentality and the mindset of Zionism. And that's why it is incredibly dangerous. I think Eric wants to connect the MCDS to this.
Connect some dots. Yeah, this is like connecting. Well, first of all, that guy is kind of really the face of Zionism, right? But to the earlier part, right? Like we definitely want to praise and excuse me, all, to the people that are protesting Jewish Voices for Peace, and for the Democrats who have kind of found their voice on this. But I think we have to connect the dots into like what's the root cause of all this, and the root cause, like, let me just show quickly the like that pyramid, right? The root cause gets into like if all we get out of this is they don't pass the latest shipment of weapons to Israel, right? That's great. That's good. But then it doesn't get to the root cause of what's happening, which is the money, the billionaires, and like when we're showing like the feudalism pyramid, right? So I just wanted to say that when we have these kind of protests and whatnot, I just think we want to be saying, yes, great, but connect into these root causes and into MCDS, which is, this is from the 11 Demands Substack about the sets of interest, and the MCDS, the money, the corruption, the demands, and the solutions. And so it's more. So I just wanted to say that it's more than just this current one, the current genocide. It brings it to a head, but we need to be digging deeper. And every member of either of these political parties is complicit in genocide. And so if they're not ready to leave the party and whatnot and get real about something new, then we need to be saying, yeah, thanks, but we need more from you. We need you to really be jumping out of these parties and connecting the dots and getting to something real, something concrete. So yeah, so MCDS on everything and connect the dots, and check it out at 11demands.org. Thanks.
That's right. And that's the important part, I think, that people really need to hear. Like, they have to call out the very power structures that exist that allow it to happen, because this is why I continue to say, as long as corporate money is controlling these two parties, you're not going to see significant changes. And I think we really all just got to call it out for what it is, right? Why are Kirsten Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer, why are they doing what they're doing, right? Like, they're complicit. They've sold out to big money interests. And I think that needs to be said as well. And I do want to point this out. I think you have a good point here. CJ said, Sabby, this is why it's increasingly being asked whether October 7th was allowed to happen in order for Israel to perpetuate genocide. Yeah, this is another thing that we called out earlier on. There was a report from the New York Times where they did say that Netanyahu, that they knew about the attack a year and a half prior to that date. They already saw those plans a year and a half before, and they said they didn't take it seriously, and that's why they chose not to act. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that they just said, yeah, we don't take it seriously, we're not going to act. I think it was intentional, and I think that CJ brings up a really good point there. Tim says, free Palestine and Sabby, where's your YouTube plaque? Oh, yes, I still have to post that. Thank you. Hi, Eric in chat. Tear down the duopoly and stop letting these lying fools play in your face. Vote third party, y'all. Shout out to Heartlands Media, says peace and love to this great community. Solidarity. Shout out to you, Sabby Sabs. What is up? Thank you, Kinman. Not gentlemen, more like human fecal matter. Thank you there for the super chat. Thank you, Marlon. Old man said, I'm taking all of you off the supremacy Christmas card list, right? And thank you for this one, Kenman. America needs a good enema of Zionism. Yeah. And that's the part when I said you may be shocked. I wasn't talking about the protests. I was talking about that, right? Again, nobody bothering him. Nobody bothering him. All right, ladies and gents, if you haven't had a chance to do so, can you smash the like button? Thank you. If you're new, would you like, sub, and share? Just like a Care Bear. Again, the theme, ladies and gentlemen, is you may be shocked. And I think you might be shocked with this next story as well. Oh, boy. When this story was sent to me, it was almost as if they knew exactly what I was thinking about. I just had a conversation with someone recently about how some of the shows that I grew up on as a kid would not be allowed to, I think, really make it today. I don't think it would make it. And the reason is because people are much more sensitive today, right? So some of the sitcoms that I grew up on in the 90s, I don't think would fare well today. I told you guys, I don't think Chappelle's Show, if it were released today as it was then, I don't think that it would fare well because people are more sensitive. So you may be shocked if you haven't heard this news. One of my favorite sitcoms of all time is Martin. Always has been. I think it's probably, if I had to rank them, it would probably be number one. And it's not just because of Martin Lawrence. I think Martin is incredibly funny, but that entire cast killed it. They did such a great job. But now, ladies and gentlemen, there is an entertainer named Ari Lennox who is not too happy with the show Martin, and she brought up an issue of colorism for dark-skinned women and how the show made her feel. And now, before I get into this, I got to make it very clear for those who have not seen Martin. I want to explain to you what this show was about. Martin Lawrence was at the beginning of the show, he was a radio host, and pretty funny one at that. Later on, he goes on to have his own talk show throughout the season. Gina, who is pictured here, the light-skinned woman, was Martin's girlfriend, and then later on his wife. Her best friend is Pam over here, the dark-skinned woman. And then they also had their other friends, Cole up here in the red hat, who was actually Cockroach on the Cosby Show. That was Theo's friend. And then they also had Tommy, who was known for apparently not having a job, right? So they used to pick on Tommy and say, Tommy, you ain't got no job, man, because he wouldn't tell people where he worked at. So anyway, funniest show, in my opinion, of all time. And, it kind of made me feel some kind of way when I heard the statement from Ari Lennox, because to be fair, Martin picked on everyone in that show. Martin didn't just pick on Pam. Martin picked on Cole. They called Cole dumb, and they picked on Cole for having a girlfriend named Big Shirley, who was supposed to be like this giant woman or something. You never really saw her face for the most part. They picked on Tommy again for not having a job. They also picked on Tommy because he was bald, so they used to pick on his head. And Martin also picked on Gina, and Gina was his girlfriend and then later his wife. He used to talk about her head. He said her head was too big. They used to call it massive dome. He used to pick on her butt and called her muscle butt, all these types of things. And they all picked on each other, and it was just jokey jokes. But like I said, some of these shows that I grew up with in the 90s, I just don't think if they were released today in 2025 that they would fare well, because people have become more sensitive. Martin Lawrence, the main character here, also played other characters in the sitcom. Martin Lawrence played a character called Shanae, which was their next door neighbor. Shanae was female. He also played my favorite character on the show, which was Jerome. Who's supposed to be kind of like pimp type guy who still dresses like he's in the 70s, even though it's not the 70s. And he used to come on and say, Jerome's in the house. I said, Jerome's in the house. Watch mouth. Jerome was my favorite. He also played a little kid who always had a runny nose named Roscoe. So there were different characters Martin Lawrence played throughout the show, and I just thought it was hilarious and phenomenal. But now, when I say people be killing the vibes, now there is a entertainer, Ari Lennox. She made a statement about the jokes that Martin Lawrence made about Pam, the character that was Gina's friend, made her feel a certain way about herself as a dark-skinned woman. I want you to hear what Ari Lennox said here. American singer Ari Lennox speaks out saying Martin's jokes about Pam's looks still hit a nerve. All right, let's hear what she had to say.
The thing that pissed me off about Martin was how much he would go on Pam. Like, I know, and this is coming from a girl who I love me a good, joking ass movie. And it even when the joking movie is like, damn, that was fucked up. I'm not too woke or something is what I'm trying to say. I'm honestly not, I'm problematic. I'm pretty problematic, low key. But my point is that there are some things where I draw the line and it just bothered me. Or I don't know. It's Pam was so fucking beautiful and so fine. And I just feel like growing up as a chocolate girl, I don't even know if I was able to understand the greatness of Pam because of the light that I feel like I was being fed. You know what I'm saying?
Let me pause here for a second. First of all, I think Ari is also very beautiful, but I just got to say this, again, like I said, maybe I'm biased, is my favorite sitcom. But You cannot rely on actors, shows, movies, or anyone else to make you feel good about who you are. You can't rely on that. Now, we'll get into the colorism aspect as well, because there is something to be said there. But at the end of the day, I never watched that show and had that feeling. I do not remember, and I've started watching Martin all over again because it's now on Netflix. So I'm revisiting this all over again. I do not remember Martin making jokes about Pam's complexion. I do remember him calling her Beady Bead, like because of her hair. I remember him saying, "You can get your hooves," and stuff like that. Like, I remember the jokes, and Pam cracked jokes on Martin too, called him Shorty Shorts or whatever, or about his height and all that kind of stuff. They used to pick on Martin because of his ears, like that type of thing. But I never saw Martin make jokes about her complexion. And I just have to say this, especially for the younger women, if you're watching, you cannot rely on, especially the entertainment industry, you can't rely on anyone else to make you feel good about yourself. You just can't. And this is something, my parents explained to me when I was younger. The jokes that I got, I was picked on when I was in school. I told you guys I was bullied and picked on and all that kind of stuff. When it came to like colorism, you know, people would call me like things in school like darky and all that kind of stuff. Like those of us like the darker skinned girls, like we used to get picked on and we went through all that. But that didn't start with Martin. Like those things happened at school. Those things happened before the show even existed. And what my parents always told me is that you have to feel good about yourself. You can't rely on anyone else to make you feel good about yourself. And this is very important. And I think women really need to hear this because it reminds me of the women that feel like, and especially some of the teenagers too, that feel like they don't feel good about themselves unless they're in a relationship. And I knew people like that. Well, the problem is you're not always guaranteed to be in a relationship. Like it's up to you to feel good about yourself. And you can't look for that validation from anyone else, from your friends, from your boyfriend, from Martin, especially from Hollywood. You can't look to that. Let me let her finish here.
Of just like always going on Pam, always like that's all I remember. And I didn't like that. But like, so I feel conflicted because while I feel like this show is incredible and I feel like Martin is a legendary show and all of the actors and Tommy and like everybody, like legendary, amazing. Like I adore them all. Like you have no idea. And I adore Martin. Like I adore him. it just would piss me off. Like the joking on Pam. I just didn't like that, like I'll always kind of feel a way about that. Like,
so I never got that feeling. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, I wasn't. And when Martin came out, I was a kid too, but I just like her, but I never got that feeling from watching that show. I felt I loved watching that show. I thought it was hilarious. And so people are making a big deal about this. Now, before we get to what Tichina Arnold said about the industry in particular, I think it's important to make everybody understand the relationship of the cast prior to the show. Tichina Arnold and Tisha Campbell were already friends in real life before they were cast on Martin's show, right? So they were friends before Little Shop of Horrors. Like they were in Little Shop of Horrors. People forget this, but they go all the way back. They've been friends for a long time. And this is an interview here. I want you guys to see what they said here about being chosen to even be a part of the show. People have to understand how competitive the industry was during that time. Like there was no social media. All these people that you see around right now, like there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, there was no such thing as these online influencers. That wasn't a thing. Like they had to do it the nitty gritty hard way to get into the entertainment industry. So listen to what they said here.
Never.
Not on Martin. Martin, we came to work and laughed every day. Like if you watch the show, you'll hear us laughing at each other's scenes, even if
No,
we're not.
the question was,
What?
did they have to calm us down?
Well, no, not really.
You know what? I would say this about Tashina and I. We are the most professional people you could ever want to work with. Right now, we had a lot of fun with you because we knew we could, but we are very professional. We come to work. We take what we do very seriously. And it was, you know, we come from a very old school way of working. My grandmother used to tell me, you have to be extraordinary in order to be considered average. So that means you got to be extraordinary. And so we always came with our A game because back in the day, I mean, we were competing against some fierce women like Regina King, Vivica Fox.
Yeah,
who else did we go?
Even for Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh my gosh.
Frank Oz, he auditioned women around the world. He auditioned every age group,
London.
every color, every creed. And I asked him, I was like, well, how did you get back to us? He said, because you girls bought something that nobody else bought. I think it was because we knew each other. We already had, you know, we were synonymous.
We were
with
singing together.
I knew Michelle Weeks. We went to school together. Tisha and I had already known each other.
Our chemistry was crazy.
So it was about the chemistry, and everything is always about chemistry, especially when you're working.
Yeah. So I wanted people to hear that because, again, like they already had a prior relationship, but the whole point there that Tisha Campbell made about they had to be better than the best. Like they had to be, you couldn't have like mistakes. You couldn't have the flaws. They had to be better than better. And like I said, it was a lot harder back then. You didn't have reality TV. Things were just so much different. Like your way into the entertainment industry was the old school way where you had to go to these auditions and audition and you had to be the best of the best, right? So to get those parts. Another thing I want to mention as well, people have to realize that there were fewer roles in particular for Black women. So, you know, it's not like there were all of these scripts where the roles were written for specifically for a Black female character. So you're not just auditioning for a show like Martin, you're also auditioning for shows where they're like, oh, we just leave it open-ended as to who the character could be. A little fun fact here, I don't know if everybody knows this, but if you watch the show Saved by the Bell, how many of you knew that Lisa Turtle's character was supposed to be a young Jewish girl? That wasn't written for Lark voice. But she went into the audition and according to the producers, they said she killed it. And so they had to change the character to have it fit her. So things were so much different like back then. Now let's get to the colorism point, because something that King of Reeds, I don't know if you guys ever watched King of Reeds. He pointed out something, he talked about this as well, but he pointed out something, how the industry was in the 80s and the 90s. And I want you to hear something here that he said.
This is the media that we're consuming, the constant trope of the dark-skinned person playing second fiddle.
A perfect example of this is Coming to America, starring Eddie Murphy as this fictional character coming from Africa and coming to find his queen or his love of his life, to have a different life. And who does he fall in love with? He falls in love with this light-skinned woman who is the daughter of the manager of the job he's working at. And the manager has two daughters. And there's a light-skinned daughter and a dark-skinned daughter. And when it was believed that the dark-skinned woman was the one who was being chosen, it was clear that it was the light-skinned woman. I truly believe that colorism is so prevalent that we do not even consider it because we see it so much. And we have just adopted it.
Now, I wanted to pause here and I wanted to show you this part. And he has a different take on this Martin story than I do. But this is something that was very common at the time. Like people, for the younger people, you may not know. But during the 80s and particularly the early, especially the early 90s, like during the 90s, it was more common that if there were a Black couple, the lighter skinned girl tended to be the romantic interest. Right? Not the dark-skinned woman. That was more common back then. See, some people don't want to bring this up, but I would say to this, a lot of people who are Gen X and boomers, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you don't see it as much today, Like today, I do feel like the standard of beauty has evolved over time. I told you when I was growing up, like there was only one black Barbie doll when I was a kid, and her name was Christy. That changed over the years. I told you when I was growing up, it was rare that I saw like black women on the cover of the magazine back when models were on the cover of magazines. And then came Naomi Campbell, and then came Tyra Banks, and things started to change over time. But in the 80s and in the 90s, that was more common. There was a movie by Spike Lee called School Days where he addressed the colorism issue. So that was happening back then. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't remember. No, that was happening back then, where the standard of beauty, in particular for the black community and in the entertainment industry, was the lighter skinned woman. Now, a lot of that is on Hollywood. And you have to ask yourself, we can't point our fingers at Eddie Murphy, even when it comes to Coming to America. Who produced that film? What studio made the film? Who wrote the script? This is what I mean by going after the very power structures that exist and not the people who are just a part of the symptom of it or a part of the system, right? So people who are pointing their fingers at Martin, and people are, since this statement came out from Ari, I'm like, you guys getting mad at Martin. Did Martin own the studio? But we don't want to go there though. Wink, wink. These are the kind of things we really need to get into. We need to talk about. Yes, colorism is a thing, but it's not just a thing within the black community. Colorism is global. It comes from colonialism. If you go to other countries, you'll see this as well. There's colorism issue in India. There's colorism issue in Thailand. There's colorism issue in Korea. Yes, it's true. It exists. Why do you guys think, and my dad was the first one that brought this to my attention, why do you think if you go to some of these countries, why do they have like aisles of skin bleaching cream? Why is it that if you look at a lot of the movies, particularly the Bollywood movies, notice, I mean, if you didn't know anything about India, you would assume watching those Bollywood movies that everybody in India looks like that. No, those are the lighter skin, the lighter complexion people that they have in the movies. So it is a global thing and it comes from colorism. But I think we need to point fingers at where they really do. Like everybody getting mad at Martin Lawrence, instead of pointing at Martin Lawrence, why don't people start pointing at the producers, the people who write the scripts, the people who own the studios? You have to remember, again, at that point in time, for black actors, there wasn't much control. Like you were very much a part of that system. You were auditioning just like everybody else. But the fact that Tisha Campbell and Tashina Arnold in particular, they already had a friendship with each other, like they were besties. Little Shop of Horrors, come on, they go way, way back. And I just felt like that statement from Ari Lennox, it was just kind of like, bruh, why are you trying to stir up stuff where there doesn't need to be anything? Yeah, we know that colorism is a problem, but you can't just sit up here and just point the way that Martin would rag on Pam. It made me feel a certain type of way, but you have to like yourself for you. You can't look to other people to make you feel good about yourself. And I'll tell you this, there's a number of times in my life in particular where I've been in situations where people have said things to me, or people have called me, you're ugly, you're too dark, and da-da-da. And you see me on this show right now. Remember, I have a ring light in front of me. For those of you who have met me in person, they will tell you I'm a little bit darker than I am without this ring light, right? But people just, I don't know, like you cannot look towards other people to make you feel confident and feel good about yourself. You can't. You have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and feel that way. Now, Tashina Arnold, she did have an interview earlier as well, and she said something about this when she was auditioning for roles. I think this is important.
The 80s were very interesting because it was about that light skin, dark skin thing. And I remember literally knowing that I was losing out to certain jobs because of my complexion. And it was just something that, was, you just dealt with it. It was, you just, roll it off your back and keep it moving. So I always had that thing of, okay, well, she doesn't have curly hair. Can you do something with your hair? A lot of people in the costume and makeup and hair industry, they were all white.
and they didn't know how to do her hair. And this is another thing. Like I said, the industry is so different now. Like there's more tools, there's more technology. Like it's so much that you can do. And even when it comes to casting calls, you ain't even got to do all that now. You have people out here who've just become straight up influencers on Instagram where they ain't got to go through no producer, no casting, none of that kind of stuff. But back then it was not that way. So people have to understand what like Tashina Arnold went through, what a lot of actresses went through during that time, just auditioning for roles, then getting the role and then realizing like they don't know how to do your makeup. They don't know how to do your hair. It wasn't as diverse back then. So those are some of the things that she ran into. And yes, everybody who was hopping around, you go back and you watch and you ask people who were bopping around, in the 80s during the DeBarge days and all those kind of stuff, ask them. That's what it was like back then. That was considered, according to Hollywood and according to the entertainment industry, that was considered the standard of beauty if you were Black. And this is why I'm trying to tell you, you cannot rely on others to tell you that you are beautiful. When we think about that story about the brown paper bag, the paper bag test, and we talk about the story about the dolls, when we go back to Brown versus Board of Education, where they brought the baby dolls into the courtroom and they asked the Black kids to point to the doll that's pretty, point to the doll that's ugly. And what they found is that the Black kids, all of the bad things, they pointed to the Black doll because that's what they were taught. Because especially at that time, the standard of beauty in the entertainment industry, it definitely wasn't Black. Definitely was not Black. Dorothy Dandridge, during her heyday, there were times when they told her that she was too dark. So you can't rely on that. You just can't. Let her finish up here.
And I had quite a few people that did not know how to do black hair. So I literally had to get a perm in order for my mom to not go nuts about somebody giving me bald spots.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the things that like she had to go through. But I will say this, I just want people to stop hating on that show, Martin. I thought Martin was a great show. And I was one of the people that was very sad when the show ended as quickly as it did. I was, I didn't know what was going on, everything that was going on at the time. But I was kind of surprised, like the 5th season was the last season. They're like, okay, well, this is it. I was like, what? It didn't make sense to me. So I was sad, like when Martin went away. Best sitcom in my opinion. And we don't have shows like that today. You just don't. This is why I can't watch network television because the shows are trash. It's like if you want a good show, you got to catch it on a streaming service. It's got to be like a Hulu made show or Amazon show or a Netflix show. You just don't have shows like that today. And to me, it just kind of felt like, yes, Martin told jokes about Pam, but Martin picked on everybody on that show and they all picked on each other. I think what was more interesting to me is that Ari felt that Martin's jokes against Pam, made her feel how she felt about herself. And for me growing up, I just did not get that feeling. I just didn't. I knew it was a sitcom. I knew that it was comedy. And I thought the show was hilarious. And I think what we don't really need like people trying to like come down on people, these actors, these shows that I thought were really great during a time where you weren't given that many roles to begin with any damn way. And I would say this, for Martin Lawrence, coming from seeing him in House Party with Tisha Campbell, you see a lot of them, they all go back. He had a smaller role in House Party. The stars of House Party were Kid and Play. And they went on to do other movies as well. The fact that Martin Lawrence had a smaller role in the House Party movies, and then he's the one that went on to have a successful, funny as hell sitcom, to me, I think that says a lot. I think Martin Lawrence worked his ass off. And that doesn't mean that he's perfect, but I think there's something to be said for that. So I saw people like losing their shit about the whole Martin thing. And now it's like, especially on social media, people are ganging up against Martin Lawrence and they're like, we got to take Martin down. And I'm like, yo, bro, did you have that feeling before the statement came from Ari? And if you did, well, why are you saying something about it just now after her statement? So I applaud the show. I like the show. And I just think that, I don't know, like when I say you may be shocked, I feel like there are other things that you can be upset about. There are other people that you can point to, you know? So maybe instead of Ari saying, you know, the way that Martin came down on Pam, and that's why I say I don't see you attacking these producers. I don't see you attacking the people who own the studios. I don't see you attacking the people that write the scripts. Come on now. If you're going to go after this, go after the power structure that exists. That's my take on that. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Hey. All right. Thank you, Alan. Zionism is the modern day Nazism. Yep. Thank you, Matthew. It states in the U.S. Constitution, if the government is seen unfit to govern, then the U.S. people have the right to run the government. Well, can we get started doing that then? Matt? Can we get started on that, Matt? American Indian says, Dragonfly Jones and Otis the security guard. Yeah. Hadia said she needs to get over it. Thank you, Matless. The movie Blazing Saddles would never be released in 2025. No, it would not. No. That one, definitely no. Thank you, Better You. Keep in mind who was the first person to defend Pam that episode when that guy tried to go in on her. It was Martin that shut him down and defended her. That's true. I remember that. JB, Sabby. We have to have a discussion about this too. I think it was our first Sabby and JB show. Yeah, we did. We had the colorism discussion. We discussed colorism. That was a great conversation. Yeah. And thank you for this one, Matless. It is far worse than colorism. Obama and Kamala were lighter complexioned and neither had Black mother, but yet they are put in front of us as POTUS candidates. It's an interesting point. Thank you, Better You. Honestly, I don't feel colorism truly exists. What we call colorism is just extensions of racism reinforced by white supremacist society we're in. Oh, that's a good point, Better You. Good point. AOHT. True, but don't consider you dark-skinned Sabby. Oh, people did in school. Thank you, none of your business. You are a beautiful Sab. We liked, were discriminated too. This is true. Thank you, Mr. AMG. I felt the same way when Fred would always call Lamont dummy and Ernie would always prank Bert. IJK. I love Martin and Pam. Martin is still my favorite sitcom. I'm Gen X. See, the Gen X know. I know they know what's up. Thank you, Marlon. Individual insecurities seem to have been public responsibility. It's comedy, though. Be willing to make your own like Ice Cube did with Friday. Thank you, D. Belfry, for the super sticker. Thank you, Cowpoke. The Fuentes type is the most dangerous type of racist on earth, clothing racism and left-wing economics. An inherent contradiction to inherent contradiction to lure the average person to their racist death cult, Dixiecrats. Thank you, Roger. Sab, you ain't dark, you orange. I'm actually not, though. It's the ring light. I'm telling you. And thank you, Roger, for this one. Bruh man from the 5th floor was my favorite. Oh, he said the 5th floor. 4 fingers, brother man said for the 5th floor. Let's get the comment on Rockfin, and then we'll get to the next story. All righty. Thank you, Roger, for the tip on Rockfin. It might not be AOC who primaries Chuck in 28. She'd have to give up her seat since both House and Senate run on even year elections. If she loses, then she's out of Congress completely. Tiffany is a different story. Ooh, I didn't think about that. City and other municipal governments in New York State run on odd number year elections. So if she loses, she gets to keep her. Just like when Senator Myrie and Ramos ran for New York City mayor and lost, but still in the New York Senate. Gen X here. And I could tell you as a darker skinned brother, I can tell you high school in the 80s, it was all about them high yellow Negroes. It wasn't until Teddy Riley's guy with Aaron and Damon Hall came in and put the dark-skinned brothers on the map. But usually, sometimes, not all the times, the high yellow chick went for the dark-skinned brothers because that was only if they had confidence. Tisha was in School Days too. That's right. She was. She was. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. So much to say. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to the next story. This one I think is going to shock you. I briefly mentioned it, but I am going to cover it today. So check this out. You may be shocked. Did you know that Columbia University, after being basically ordered to by Donald Trump, did you know that they are paying cash reparations? But not to who you would think. You see, the Palestine Chronicle, they were the ones that reported this, and I thought people would find this very interesting. Check this out, folks. Columbia University didn't pay reparations for slavery. Now it pays them to Zionists. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. This is not a joke, not a drill. They are about to kick out a lot of money, honey. A lot of money. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can follow. Despite its historic ties to slavery, Columbia University has never paid reparations to Black Americans, but now it has reached a compensation deal for its Jewish staff over claims of anti-Semitism. Many feel this represents a blatant prioritization of some groups over others by the academic institution. What did I tell you? Wait till you hear the dollar amount. Bowing to the pressure of the U.S. Trump administration, Columbia University not only agreed to pay $200 million to settle a federal investigation into alleged anti-Semitism, but also reached a historic settlement with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to pay 21 million class claims fund to provide reparations to Jewish employees impacted by alleged anti-Semitism. Let's highlight 21 million. Now, this goes back to the pro-Palestinian protests on Columbia University's campus. So you see how I told you when it comes to certain groups, when it's time to implement repair, they have no problem doing it. Now, Columbia University is also tied to the slave trade. And it took, here's the thing, other articles have reported this, but they didn't go as deep as the Palestine Chronicle did. It took the Palestine Chronicle to dive into this to explain to people that Columbia was tied to slave trade. And instead of paying reparations to American descendants of slavery, they are paying reparations to their Jewish employees because their feelings were hurt during the pro-Palestinian protests. Hello? All because of feelings. All because of feelings. So check this out. On April 17th, 2024, anti-war student protesters set up their first encampment at Columbia University in order to pressure the academic institution to divest from Israel. By the way, that was what they were asking for. That was the demand. The reaction from the university was to call in law enforcement, including riot police, to violently expel them for their peaceful activism and lawfully exercising free speech. That crackdown triggered a wave of encampments by students at Ivy League universities all across the country, and some non-Ivy as well. Netanyahu compared the student protest to Nazis, which was followed by U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson, labeling them all anti-Semitic and accusing them of being terrorist sympathizers. Then they point out here that the media also decided to follow suit, CNN and Fox News. And this is why I continue to say, corporate media, they are the ones that continue to push the propaganda. I still haven't seen CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. You don't see them get behind any type of push or reparations for descendants of slavery in this country. In fact, it seems like to me There only seems to be one group in particular where if there is harm that is done, there is a call to fix it monetarily, not with a letter, not with a statement, but with money. Some of the same people who tell you it's divisive, if you talk about this for descendants of slavery, for freedmen, where are those people at now? Where are they at? How many people covered the story? Why are they so silent? It goes on to say here, let's go down here a little bit. They go through what happened during the encampments. And then it says here, there was a mass unseating of university presidents, was already unprecedented in the history of U.S. academia. However, when Trump took over the White House, he only accelerated this assault on free speech. The Trump administration has been following a strategy published by the Washington-based Heritage Foundation called Project Esther. This document was published by influential right-wing think tank on October 7th, 2024, and has been followed almost precisely to the letter since Donald Trump's inauguration. So what you see here, and this is what I've been warning people about, this is that Miriam Adelson money being put to work. Getting back to the money, to the great displeasure of Columbia faculty, the university decided to back down once again and hand $200 million to the Trump administration, in addition to pledging $21 million in reparations for Jewish staff. $21 million, not 21,000, 21 million. Let's get into the slavery history here. Putting aside the fact that the university refused to stand up for or compensate Palestinian students or others with reparations for violent assaults and trauma that they endured during this period, Columbia University has still never paid reparations to Black Americans for its ties to slavery. The university, particularly in its early years, while still called the King's College, was deeply immersed in the slave trade. In fact, of its first 10 presidents, at least half were proven back in 2017 to have owned slaves. Now, they're not alone. Harvard University is complicit in this as well, which they also acknowledge, and they still ain't pay nothing. It's not like they don't know. They know, and they've addressed it. But you see how it is when it comes to Black Americans, they don't want to kick no money out. In addition to this, slavery was such a normal part of life at the university that it had seeped its way into the curriculum by the 1760s, as most students there were of wealthy merchant families whose wealth came from the slave trade. There was even a constant need for college building operation funds required for maintenance, which were donated mainly by active participants in the slave trade. The stepson of the U.S. founding father, George Washington, was even recorded as having bought a slave with him to the university. In 2016, Jordan Brewerton uncovered documentation that proved 28 students at the university had taken out a total of 44 advertisements for runaway slaves in the local newspapers. Although many of the records linking the university to the slave trade were destroyed or lost in translation, research from Columbia students managed to uncover many significant links that paint the picture that the academic institution was at least in part built and sustained with funds made as a result of the slave trade. And people don't want to talk about it. That's Columbia University. And of course it took, and this is the thing I want people to understand. Of course it took, now listen to this. In other words, reparations for hurting people's feelings, but no reparations for descendants of enslaved Black Americans, the population on the backs of which the university built itself. So the academic institution set up class claims fund that will in effect pay reparations to its Jewish staff over claims that students opposing a genocide had allegedly engaged in anti-Semitic acts because their feelings were hurt. Now, we got to give a shout out where it's due. It's the Palestine Chronicle that reported this. This is why I continue to say you have to attack the power struggle at hand. If you're not attacking power, nothing is going to change significantly for you. Now, this university basically built off the backs of slaves. They ain't pay no reparations to freedmen, descendants of slaves, but they just kicked out money just like that to Jewish employees because their feelings were hurt during the protest. You follow me? And they may not be the last. UCLA, here's another one. UCLA to pay $6 million to settle lawsuit over pro-Palestinian protests. You see, they hitting up all these schools, telling them to kick out money to who? Kick out money to who? $6 million. While UCLA has denied any wrongdoing, it agreed to settle fully with $50,000 payments to each of the plaintiffs in addition to the $2.33 million in donations to organizations that combat anti-Semitism. Of all the things that have happened and continue to happen to Black people in this country, you ain't never see them move like this. You ain't never see them. Best you get is Chuck Schumer, Jim Clyburn, and Nancy Pelosi kneeling in kente cloth. That's the best you get. And I say this, and everyone pay very, very close attention to what I say here. I see a lot of this online where it's Black people arguing against each other and not attacking the power structure that is allowing this to happen. While Black people are fighting against each other online, look at what just happened. I would like to see a movement to demand Columbia University to pay reparations to Black Americans. Because you see, we don't have power. We don't have PACs. We don't have, the ADL, which was supposed to push back and stop hate against everybody, primarily fights for Israel. None of these organizations are trying to join along with Black Americans to get the repair that is owed to us. And I'm not even talking about the police brutality. I'm not even talking about redlining. I'm talking about the 40 acres and a mule, which would be much more today. So you see how people can get together to advocate for a specific group and get what they feel they are owed. And a lot of people are not covering this story. People need to understand, look at this. This is coming directly from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It says this is the largest EEOC public settlement in almost 20 years. This is why I said you may be shocked. Because see, I don't want to hear nothing else from nobody else. Now, do you see any of those other people, those students at the campus, the people who filed the claims, the ADL, any of these other organizations that say they're fighting for everybody? Do you see these organizations trying to get the same type of repair for descendants of slavery? No. Everybody bookmark this. When we clip this story, Eric, everybody bookmark this when we clip this story. So you'll have the clip of just this story and you can share it with other people. It's not about getting the views. It's about getting that message out because people need to know. I don't want nobody coming back to me a couple years from now when I say, well, yes, Columbia University gave reparations to the Jewish employees. I don't want nobody to come back and say, no, that never happened. This been happening. When Marianne Williamson had that conversation with Marcel Dixon tried to tell her, no, they did this again under Barack Obama. Obama was also giving repair to those organizations. And she said, no, that didn't happen. It did happen. Here's another reason why this is incredibly troubling. Chris Smalls did what I believe is his first interview. He shared this on Twitter on ABC News. Listen to what Chris Smalls said they did to him, what Israel did to him. I want you to hear it because this is who they giving reparations to. Listen to this.
And so, Chris, I do want to hit on that because you were the only Black person on board the boat and also the only one to face violence, you say, from the IDF, being choked and kicked by 7 soldiers at once. Tell us a little more about that experience, if you will.
Yeah, once again, my color definitely had a role to play. The discrimination against Black and brown and Palestinian people. I got a glimpse of it myself. It's nothing compared to what Palestinian people go through every day. But once again, I was voicing my concerns, voicing my opinions about what has happened. This illegal siege that Israel has imposed when 7 authorities didn't like the fact that I didn't want to consent to their propaganda. They violently threw me to the ground. They put their knees in my back. They 3 on each side levitated me while one of the soldiers or authorities grabbed my hair, pulled my hair back and my jewelry to use it as a noose to choke me. And as he was choking me, he was yelling, telling me a bunch of racist remarks, saying he's not my brother and telling me to shut up repeatedly, until I was separated from the rest of the volunteers. They kept me isolated in a room. They threw me up against the wall a couple of times. Once again, just subjected to horrific conditions that nobody else had to face. And, I kind of expected that, but I didn't expect it to be that extreme. And I'm glad that I'm here to tell the story. And once again, to shed light on the atrocities that Israel has imposed on the Palestinian people. They need to be held accountable, and we need to break their illegal siege.
They used his necklace and his hair, they pulled back his hair and used it as a noose around his neck. That's who Columbia University just gave reparations to. And I've been so angry with all the arguing I see back and forth between Black people online when it's so obvious to me you're not fighting the final boss. You're not going back against the power. And I'm sitting back and I'm looking at all these arguments with each other online, and I'm like, rich white Zionist billionaires are sitting back and they're laughing. They're laughing. They're like, yeah, let them attack each other so they're not looking at us. Final boss. Yes, final boss. Skylar said it. I'm telling you, white supremacy is like the final boss in a video game, but we keep losing against it. But one day we'll win, or this world will crumble under the weight of it all. And I agree with Skylar here, because this is something I want people to fully understand as well. The reason why we have not received cash reparations for descendants of slavery in this country, for freedmen in this country, is because of white supremacy. It's not true that the money isn't there. Columbia University, the same way they can pay those employees, they can pay what is owed to descendants of slavery. Harvard University, your check is long overdue. Harvard owned slaves. People keep talking about, well, the government only has this. The budget can change if they want it to change. But on top of that, these corporations, and I do consider universities to be a business, having worked at them for years, they are a business. These corporations, these businesses also have a debt that is owed. Now, I mentioned Columbia, I mentioned Harvard University. I'm pretty sure there's others out there if we take a look. But it's owed. So what I ask of everyone is this, if you're watching this show in particular, instead of arguing with other Black people online, start pointing your fingers and your voice at the very power structure that is not repairing descendants of slavery and is choosing to repair groups that do not need repair. Groups that have already received repair. And we are looked over every time. That is a debt that is owed. And honestly, they don't want us to have it. They don't want us to have it because if we have it, that means that we might buy homes in their communities. We might become their neighbors. We might be at their country clubs. We might be at the same table as them. They don't want it. So stop blaming other people who have no power and start pointing your finger at the ones that do, the ones who's writing the damn checks. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Then we're going to go to something a little bit more funny. We like to switch up the mood around here. Thank you so much, Truth Not War, for the super sticker. Thank you, Roger. Hey, wait a minute, but where's the study? I know, right? They're like, oh, we need to do a study. We got to study it. Thank you for the super chat, Skylar. Ari is brave to say how the jokes impacted her. It's hard growing up when everyone reminds you how dark you are, e.g. kids, TV, family. I got it too. We can criticize Martin and still live. I think you mean love the show? Martin and still love the show. I mean, I don't know. I got more, I got picked on more at school. Like I felt more of that from kids at school, not from a TV show. Thank you, Truth Not War. Hurt feelings. Trump went after Russia because of South Park plus a mean tweet. His ego was already suffering. Thank you, Marlon. Immediate compensation for a genocide state and no one asked who was going to pay for it. Stop sending money related to them in any way. Yeah. And all Black people, anyone that's Black that's watching, don't attend Columbia University. Let's get the comment on Rumble. Thank you. Thank you, Goo81. Smotrich, ISR finance minister, said today, international law does not apply to Jewish people. That's what separates the chosen people from others. See, there you go. There's that supremacy. Thank you, Roger. Well, this is their chance to pay us reparations now, Sabby, not just for slavery, but they sure as hell got the money to give it to us, but more importantly, give the land back that they gentrified in Harlem. Encroaching further and further into Harlem. Sabrina, I just did a Google and Grok search while you were talking to see just how much. If you want, this might be your next deep dive. Sounds good to me. I'm always excited about a deep dive. Okie doke. We're going to move on to something a little bit more funny, right? So we're going to move on to this segment with Bill Burr. Bill Burr is one of the comedians I feel like that oftentimes just tells it like it is. I also feel like he has no filter. Like, I feel like if Bill Burr was invited to your parents for dinner, you probably want to give them a heads up. Probably want to let them know, FYI, he kind of just, he says whatever comes out of his mouth. You might want to do that, right? Well, he had an interview recently on Good One podcast, and he is totally tearing apart corporate media. And I think people need to hear this. And he also talks about his own personal experiences, how he has been impacted by corporate media as well, politics, and he's also taken down the billionaires. Check this out. Let's bring it in.
Ben Shapiro talked about going to one of your shows and complaining about you becoming woke, which sort of then created this.
He doesn't even know what that word means. His definition of woke is white liberals' definition of woke, and they didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
They just took the word from black people.
They did. That part is yeah. JC said Bill Burr is the George Carlin of our day. I think so. But it's true. That's where it came from. It came from the black community. And the next thing I knew, it was like a Democrat thing. And now it was just used to describe other things that it was never meant for. Right? I think the Scottsboro boys, I have to double check, but I think it was the Scottsboro boys who were using that term like back in the day, the first ones to really use it. But yeah, the Democratic Party has a tendency to do this. They take things that are in the black community and turn it into what they want it to be.
That's the worst thing about our people is not only do we take from other cultures, we don't even take the time to understand the definition.
Yeah.
He went there to be annoyed so he can then have something to talk about, and then he can make money off of dividing his own country.
Yeah.
Those people, it's treasonous what they do.
Yes, but to be fair, or not to be fair, to the fact is that it worked for what his goal is, which is then it became a thing online where then a certain portion of the right complain about how you're woke.
Racists.
And we're racist.
They're racist. Yeah, they send pictures of monkeys to me and my wife.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
fucking horrible people, and they're cowards.
Let me pause here for a second. For those who are not aware, Bill Burr's wife is black. So he said that, people have been sending him like racist pictures to him and his wife. So just FYI.
And they never say it to your face.
Yeah.
They never do that. And no, they're like, look, dude, there's an ugliness that's out there right now where, there's certain podcasts out there that if you're a racist, if you're an anti-Semite, if you're a psycho-nationalist and you want a softball interview, there's podcasts out there where you can, and they will laugh at your fucking bad jokes and just give you this pass. And it's like, there's a really ugly thing that's going on out there. And, it's the kind of things we've already seen this, and we've seen what it does to a nation. And it's not the way to go. It's not the way to go.
So, and then at the same time, you're talking about billionaires, you're talking about stuff like this, and people on the left have been really embracing you, and they're sharing your videos.
No, that's not true, dude.
Certain parts of the left.
True. That's not true.
Certain portions of the left.
That's not true. And certain portions of the right.
Sure.
There's common sense on both sides.
Sure.
But we keep doing this shit where it's like, oh, the right's all fucking racist. And dude, the left is some of the most fucking, most of the left feels like if they have a black friend, they don't have issues. Okay. I'm out of that.
Yes.
Oh, we might have to, I know we haven't done it in a while, but I think we may have to drop the beat for that one. I think we got to drop the beat for Bill Burr on that one because he's got a point. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat. In the street. Woo! All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I know we haven't done it in a while, but I had to drop the beat for that one because he is correct. He's right. Like I told you, it's on both sides. And some of these liberals that are like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, yeah. And some of them that have the sign in the window of their their apartment or whatever, or they have the sign on their lawn and all this kind of stuff. The moment you move next door to them, He's right though. They do think that a lot of times they do think that. You know, it's not everybody, but a lot of times they think that because they have like a black friend, then they're not. You know, they don't have these issues. I'm so glad he said that. Oh my God.
Podcast out there where you can, and they will laugh at your fucking bad jokes and just give you this pass. And it's like, you know, there's a really ugly thing that's going on out there. And, you know, it's the kind of things we've already seen this, and we've seen what it does to a nation. And it's not the way to go. It's not the way to go.
So, and then at the same time, you know, you're talking about billionaires, you're talking about stuff like this, and people on the left have been really embracing you, and they're sharing your videos.
No, that's not true, dude.
Certain parts of the left.
True. That's not true.
Certain portions of the left.
That's not true. And certain portions of the right.
Sure.
There's common sense on both sides.
Sure.
But we keep doing this shit. Where it's like, oh, the right's all fucking racist, and dude, the left is some of the most fucking. They most of the left feels like if they have a black friend, they don't have issues. Okay, I'm out of that.
Yes,
I'm out of that, so I don't want to hear left and right crap. They're all fucking nuts. That fucking shit post Me Too, where it went from people shouldn't sexually assault people, absolutely, to I don't like what you're talking about in your act, was fucking nuts. It was McCarthyism on the left. And now you've gone to the other side on the right. And the left was so fucked up, the right, you know, the psycho right thinks that they're in the middle, and they're not. They're out of their fucking minds. And I travel, dude, and I'm telling you, people who lean right and lean left are chill. And we're just sitting in the middle like, when is everybody going to fucking calm the fuck down? When is this going to go back to, you know, like live and let live?
Sure.
So let me pause here for a second, because something he said there that I have to mention. Comedians kind of got a bad deal nowadays. Like, I don't know. Like, again, some of the comedians that I grew up with probably wouldn't be able to, you know, perform today. Like if Andrew Dice Clay, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, like if they told the jokes that they told back then today, they would probably be canceled. They would probably be canceled. So Bill Burr, don't forget, he's kind of got it on both sides now, like him, Chappelle, like a lot of them. But if you've never seen Andrew Dice Clay, or if you've never seen like Eddie Murphy Raw, or like George Carlin, I don't know, man. I feel like people are much more sensitive today. So comedians, they don't have it so well right now.
And there's way more of that. And I have people from construction workers to fucking, you know, hairy leg chicks with nose rings going, hey, I like what you're saying out there about these billionaires. Because that is the fucking problem.
Yes.
And the other problem is that people make it like it's political. Like if you vote for this color tie, these billionaires are somehow going to grow a heart. And it's just not the case. It isn't.
Yeah. And ultimately, my question is ultimately, when you think of talking about politics at all in your act, what do you want to do, right?
If I do it, I trash them both.
Yeah.
And that's the way to go. I really do think, you know, like notice what he did there. He called out the billionaires. That's important. He called out the billionaires. And yeah, he's a celebrity. You know, he's probably a millionaire by now at least, but he ain't a billionaire. And there is a big difference. You look at the numbers, there's a big difference between being a millionaire and a billionaire. One day I'm going to show that on the show, what it looks like to have billions of dollars versus what everybody else got. But the thing that I like about Bill Burr is that he calls out the power dynamics. He's calling out the billionaires. That's important.
With what?
Because that is my job. That is my job. I can't fix the political system, and I don't watch a lot of it. But, you know, when I do stand up, you know, if I start trashing like Trump, I would hear the left in the crowd like, yeah. And I'd be like, the fuck, you voted for a guy that, you know, is staring off into space. Like your guy literally should be in a fucking home. What are you patting yourself on the back for? X, Y, and Z, blah, blah. Your fucking party has not let you vote for has not let you choose your candidate since Obama's second term.
Yeah.
You're liberal? That's fucking insane. We want Bernie Sanders. Fuck you, Hillary. We want Bernie Sanders. Fuck you, fucking Mr. Magoo. Mr. Magoo again, fucking 2 weeks before. Yeah, his vice president.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So like so then after I trash Trump, I then do that because my thing is like I'm not flying either one of their flags. It's the people that pay them.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem. And they're always distracting us with other stuff. So like CNN and Fox News are a fucking disease.
So
let's pause here for just a second. Again, notice he called out the people who are paying them, the people above them, the people at the top, calling out the power structure. That's what you have to do. That's the important piece, right? He brought up a really good point. It's like, it's crazy on both sides. It's like you have Donald Trump like making decisions that and we're going to get into those employment numbers on Tuesday night, by the way, but making decisions that, again, is not America first, does not benefit the working class people, making false promises about stopping these wars, which they ain't happening. Then you also had Biden, perfect example, promised those $2,000 checks, didn't give people $2,000, try to blame it on the guy before you. And then you have the Democratic Party just rigging primary elections, just selecting a candidate and telling you this is the nominee. And if you say something about it and you push back on it, then other Democrats are like, you're right wing, you're a secret Trumper, you want to get Trump, you want to get Trump, you want to get Trump. And it fails over and over. It failed in 2016, it failed in 2024. And I said, I honestly believe that had it not been for the pandemic, that Trump would have won in 2020 as well. So going up to people and go, you want to get Trump? You want to get Trump? Obviously, it doesn't work.
Is your goal to clear out? Your hope is if I make fun of it, I will clear out the distraction and focus on the.
No, what I was doing then was I was just trashing both sides.
just to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not to do it, but also to just show that it's fucked up. But now I've moved on from that.
Got it.
To the puppeteers.
Got it.
So that's what I'm gonna make fun of. So my new perspective is there's nothing wrong with being a billionaire, but if somebody is working 40 hours a week, 160 hours a month, and they can't make their rent, you're not paying them enough money. Maybe you should just be worth 900 million.
Yeah.
But that's how they become billionaires. That's the part Bill Burr needs to add. That's how they get there, is by paying them so low. Right? So.
Like, how does a CEO take a fucking 8-figure bonus and none of your employees have dental insurance? They can't even go out and get a filling.
What do you do then when you're put in a position, like SNL asks you to host the week after the election, right? That's like, it's for a comedian, hypothetically, to talk about politics, to unite the nation. How did you feel when you were put in that position?
No, it's an honor to be asked to do that. And I made fun of Kamala and I made fun of Trump. And then I did a couple of silly jokes. I kept it light. You just, you do what you do. I don't put that level of importance on, excuse me. I don't put that level of importance on my act. What I'm finding is that people keep trying to categorize what it is that you're doing. Like that idiot Ben Shapiro. No, he's woke now. He's like, I don't, that fucking guy, someone came to me and goes, hey man, he was trying to bring me into his fold. At one point, the guy liked me.
Yeah.
And then when I didn't, then all of a sudden I'm a fucking asshole. I mean, I'm supposed to look at that guy like he's an adult.
Do you feel misunderstood if people take you words one way or the other?
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry. That part is funny. He's basically saying that Ben Shapiro's not an adult.
I'm deliberately misunderstood.
Got it.
So people are like, it's like a catcher trying to make a ball a strike. So they try to, and everyone does it. It's not just people with radio shows and podcasts. It's like fans do it. Like one of the funniest things ever is so many of my bits are online, which is great promotion to sell tickets. But the names of the jokes, they name them.
I was going to,
and I'm like, that's not the name of the joke. That's not the perspective of the joke. I've seen people that teach comedy classes saying, you see what he's doing here, and what he's doing, and it's it bothered me at first, and then I'm just like, what do I care? It's just like there's fucking songs that I listened to for 40 years, and I thought they were about something, and then I hear the artist go like, no, it wasn't a. Like, do you know somebody? I just saw something. I don't know if it's true, but that
the song. Do you guys remember that song by Third Eye Blind? The doot 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 song, Semi-Charmed Life. Remember that song? When that song first came out, it's such an upbeat, happy song. So I was just like, I want something else. Doot 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 doot. Then later on, I found out what that song was really about, and I was like floored. I was like, oh my God. That song is about recovering from drugs. Like, apparently, like, I guess, the lead singer of Third Eye Blind was talking about, I guess, his previous experience with addiction and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, and I was just bopping around, dancing to it, like, yay, put on the happy song. So it's like, you have to read the lyrics.
that Buffalo Springfield song. What is that? Stop children. Everybody thought it was about Vietnam. And then the guy, no, they shut down the whiskey that night. And there was cops down there. And it was just sort of about this little rock club in LA. And it's just like, oh, I thought your song was about what I cared about.
Yeah.
It was about what you cared about.
Like
so
all the directors of every movie that use that to overscore shots of kids protesting.
Have you seen that guy on Instagram where he says every movie becomes better if it ends with Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run in the credits? Oh my God, it's amazing. It's like the end of the Shawshank Redemption.
Or just Bruce Springsteen's voice in general. I get up in the evening and I ain't got nothing to say. I come home in the morning. It's like when you hear that voice, like it doesn't make you, I don't know, it doesn't make you sad. I think that voice is like kind of that, you know, the people that have the raspy kind of voice, it makes you feel like a certain kind of way. Like, I don't know. But yeah, Bill Burr there, I think is great calling out the billionaires. And he said he's focusing more of that in his comedic acts. So I think that's great. Hey, we need more comedians to do that, right? To call out again the power structures, ladies and gents. So yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. Bruce Springsteen, Brenda said, I love when Sabby grooves. Oh, thank you. Bruce Springsteen had a distinct voice, like, so Leroy said low key makes you want to listen more. Yeah, it does. It's just different. Like, I always looked at musicians that have like that raspy voice. I always have like a different amount of respect for them because I don't know how they do that. And I don't know, like they don't seem to lose their voice, right? All right, we got one more story for you, ladies and gents. Let's go ahead and give shout outs to the chat here. Kinman said black wife also. Yeah, his wife is black. Thank you for the super sticker, Marie. Mege said I was lurking, but when the beat drops. Greg Bruce says where I disagree with Bill Burr is that there's stupidity in the center too. That's true. That is true. Let's get the comment on Rockfin. All right. Thank you so much for the tip, Roger. Lead belly jazz musician who invented the word woke in 1938. If I don't go crazy, I'm sure gonna lose my mind because I can't sleep for dreaming. Sure can't stay woke for crying. Best stay woke. Oh, Lead Belly. So maybe it wasn't the Scottsboro Boys. I thought it was them. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got one more story for you. If you haven't done so, can you smash the like? Thank you. And this one, I think you may be shocked. It's funny. I got to end with something funny, okay? Yeah, man. Apparently Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes are angry with each other. And like low-key, it was low-key at first, but now like Nick Fuentes has responded to Tucker Carlson's statement about him living apparently in his mom's basement. And Nick Fuentes like really went in. Like it's like we'll start with Tucker Carlson statement here. This is his conversation with Candace Owens. We'll start with what he said that I guess triggered Nick Fuentes. And we have to ask this question. Is this issue between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes a class war? Is this what this is really about? Listen to this. Tucker Carlson talks to Candace Owens about the weird little gay kid, Nick Fuentes, attacking Joe Kent and being a controlled asset used to discredit people on the right. All right, again, it starts with Tucker Carlson. Listen.
That's obvious to me. I've been around a long time. I know it when I see it.
Yeah, and I will say I don't understand it. We were very kind to him. Like I truly, like we almost said, like we felt maybe he was a bit lonely. We should invite him back for dinner. I mean, that's how good of an experience I had.
Clearly it's
and then it was a
sad.
180. So it's either A, it's being driven from like a little boy insecurity, and he just was so worried that he like just went on the attack because he doesn't know how to have normal relations after being banned everywhere.
Well, I think there's
that could be one element.
The angry gay kid thing going on. Yeah.
Or it's what you're saying, where he does this, he's lying to everybody and pretending that things are one way when it's not. I can say
Why is he attacking Joe Kent, who...
So Tucker slipped that in there. He said the angry gay kid thing. Look, Nick Fuentes at one point attended Boston University. He has been identified as, this is how they describe him, identified as a white supremacist. He has been banned on multiple platforms. And it's interesting too. He's supposed to be a white supremacist, but he's also, like, from what I understand, half Mexican. I'm so confused. I'm just so confused. But at one point, it seemed like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes were all on the same side, which is, pro-Trump, at least in that angle. But I don't know why he threw in the angry gay kid thing. Like, I just don't see why that was relevant. But it gets crazier. Listen to this.
I mean, Joe Kent worked as a CIA contractor, paramilitary contractor. He was in the U.S. military for years fighting our neocon wars. And his wife was killed in Syria in one of those wars. Joe Kent is the single most sincere critic, and I would say the one with the most credibility in the United States to say this foreign policy is bad. It killed my wife. I was a part of it. Joe Kent is actually someone the CIA doesn't like at all because he understands how it operates. And for Nick Fuentes, who's like some child from Chicago, to go after him specifically, one congressional seat in Washington State.
Yeah, it's random.
It's not random, though. It's the opposite of random. Joe Kent was number one on the list of people they wanted to knock off, people who believe in our neocon foreign policy. They wanted Joe Kent out because he could stand up and say, I actually know. I've got the receipts. My wife was killed in Syria. You had to take that guy out. And Nick Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago, is participating in a super PAC to bump off Joe Kent. Like, I've been around this my whole life.
Pause. So again, there he goes with the weird little gay kid. Like, why does that matter? Like, and I don't even know if that's true, but I'm just saying, like, why do you need to throw that in there? Why is he still calling him a kid? Isn't Nick Fuentes an adult? And then he throws in the basement part of this conversation. So then that's kind of like, I don't know. Is this a class thing? Because listen, there are quite a bit of people that are living in a basement apartment or their parents' basement or whatever. That's the way it is today, Tuck. That's the way it is. So I just didn't understand, like, why not point out the issues that you have with his statements, with his policy, maybe ideology, without throwing in the classist and also the anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. To me, I just don't understand why that was thrown in to be part of the conversation.
I know what that is. It's just an organized effort.
Yeah.
And he also did the thing that David Duke always did, including to me, which is be like, oh, yeah, it's my friend. And everyone's like, oh, Tucker Carlson's been endorsed by David Duke. I've been making like the anti-racist argument my whole life.
Right.
Like, I'm not for David Duke. Do I think David Duke is right when he's against affirmative action? You bet I do, but I'm not.
Who hasn't David Duke endorsed at this point? David Duke has come out to endorse, Democrats, etc. I told you, I really do think that David Duke is a plant for the Democratic Party to use against candidates that are not pro-Israel. I really do. It's happened so many different times, but his name just seems to keep coming back up.
For David Duke, but David Duke would try to discredit people by hugging them. And that's exactly what Fuentes did. He goes out there and meet all these people, show up, hi, I'm Nick Fuentes. Can I get my picture with you? That's a campaign to destroy credible voices on the right. And Fuentes is part of it. And I know I'm inviting endless trouble by saying this because, this is a kid with a lot of spare time, but it's just a fact. And I've seen it a lot.
Yeah.
And you can believe me or not, but I know what I'm talking about.
I can confirm he's dishonest. I mean, so it's like you use that as your, like, I could not determine what his motives were. I said, you know what? I don't have time for this. I gave you a fair chance, gave you a fair shake, and you are a fundamentally dishonest human being. There was no reason to do it. If he had not done that show and screamed and yelled, his followers would have been like, oh, that was an interesting conversation between two people who agreed some, disagreed some, and like that was it. It was interesting that he got there. He doesn't want to be, and I can tell you that he doesn't want to be anywhere but where he is. He doesn't want to have normal relations. And it did sort of feel, and I said that to him, that he's like responding to orders somewhere, because why are you attacking me?
Well,
why are you attacking Dave Smith? What is the issue with Dave Smith? And he couldn't answer the question.
Exactly.
He couldn't answer the question. He was just like, well,
the fakest thing I've ever seen.
And I'm like, why do you hate Dave Smith over Joe Rogan?
Yeah, man. So Nick Fuentes did respond and obviously had issues with what Tucker Carlson said. One thing that he shared here, he said, Tucker claims he was shocked to discover his dad was in the CIA upon his death in March 2025. But here he is in June 2024 admitting his father was CIA. Why did he lie? Oh boy.
And so when I applied to CIA, and I've taken a lot of crap, including from Putin, like, oh, you're from a CIA family. Well, yeah, obviously my father worked in conjunction with CIA. I mean, that's what that is. And I tried to join the CIA, but I'm not being false about it.
Native talent. And he's attacking my dad as a CIA, his dad's in the CIA or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. Then my father dies, and I learn, actually, yeah, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it. So,
oh boy, this is not good. And so they put up the dates here. Richard Anderson, February 10, 1941, of course, Boston, Massachusetts. Died March 24th, 2025, age 84 in Florida.
No one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
Right.
And so when
oh boy. Yeah, this is not good. This is not good, but that's not even the craziest part. I say you may be shocked. It's this part right here where Nick Fuentes really goes after Tucker Carlson. And a lot of this, I think, stems from the interview that Nick Fuentes had with Candace Owens. Then afterwards in the interview, there was argument back and forth between Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, where he was not happy about her giving a microphone, I guess, to Harvey Weinstein. So there was back and forth there. But holy moly, here we go.
I'm being accused of being the CIA by Peter Thiel's best boys, by Tucker Carlson with his daddy. Tucker Carlson's, and you know what? Here's the other thing. Tucker Carlson said I'm a weird gay kid in the basement. Yeah, and I'm from Chicago. You're right. Well, okay, you're not right about all of that. But I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Tucker Carlson says, I have so many trust funds, I never have to work. Tucker went to a $45,000 per year private high school, then a $45,000 per year selective Ivy League school in New England. Tucker Carlson's daddy was a Reagan appointee. And then after years of bragging about being an elite, bragging about being so out of touch and so rich, now he's going to be the spokesperson for all the white people. Now he's going to roll up his sleeves. I just like to hunt and fish in my log cabin. I care about Klarna and credit card debt.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think, oh my God. This is why I wonder, I'm like, this is a class war that's happening here. Because yeah, Tucker does come from a well-to-do family, like very, very well-to-do. But that's why I said, like, when he was critiquing his statements, the best thing Tucker Carlson could have done is not bring the class issue into it, not bring his sexuality, even if that's, I don't even know if that's true, but alleged sexuality into it, just focus on the issues and not all these other things. Because the basement remark, like I can tell you, there's a number of people that are living in their parents' basement, adults living in their parents' basement, trying to save their money so that maybe they can get a down payment on a house, if that ever happens nowadays, or they can get their own apartment. That's not uncommon, but I feel like Tucker Carlson doesn't understand that because he's cut from a different cloth. I feel like Tucker Carlson is from a bubble that most of us are not from. And so if you never had to take time to save money so that you can get something better, then you don't really understand that. So I feel like he could have left that part out of the conversation. It gets crazier, guys. Like I said, you may be shocked. Check this out.
But then when it comes to me, I'm one of the real disaffected white people. You want to talk about me and them? I am them. He says Nick Fuentes is leading all of the disaffected young white men. I am a disaffected young white man. I was a precocious, intelligent, young white college student who went to Boston University, who was pro-Trump and red-pilled by Trump and animated by Trump's message of America first. And I asked questions about Israel, and I was punished for it. I did it years before Tucker Carlson started talking about Israel last year.
Oh.
And I sacrificed, and I was targeted by the ADL, by the SPLC, by the federal government, by the conservative movement that both Candace and Tucker were a part of.
This is another part, ladies and gentlemen. All right. I think you're hearing some other things about some of the people that were criticizing Israel and what they were doing. And Nick took it to another extreme, but criticizing Israel and what they were doing when it wasn't popular to do so, like long before October 7th, it sounds like he might also feel some type of way about the fact that, according to him, Tucker and Candace are saying it now, but I guess he's kind of like, where were you before when it wasn't popular to say those things? So Nick Fuentes has been kicked out of a lot of spaces, and Candace and Tucker have not. And now it's like Tucker is basically using the class issue against them as well. So this is getting, this is dirty, you guys. It's getting dirty.
Candace and Tucker had nothing to say about Israel until it became unavoidable last year. Not popular, but unavoidable. And now they want to gatekeep me out and do this personality attack and say I'm a bitter loser in my basement from Chicago. I'm a kid from Chicago. And they slipped up there because they forgot for 1 second that they're pretending to be the spokesperson for exactly that kind of person. Tucker's mask slipped, and he forgot for a minute that for 8 years he's been pretending to care about the plight of weird kids in their parents' basement who are broke and didn't go to an Ivy League school, living in cities that don't matter like Chicago, not like Washington, D.C. or L.A. or New York. And that's why he had such disdain and contempt for me in that moment. Between the personality attacks, he's lonely, he's weird, he lives in a basement. I'm sorry, did you guys forget that that's your target audience that you're trying to pander to? Did you forget that for 2 seconds? And I'm the inauthentic person? I am that person.
Yeah, this is the part that he doesn't think about. And thank you for this. FM says being ostracized by how you were born is a bitch, ain't it, Nick? Exactly. Exactly. Really sucks, don't it? It really sucks for someone to come after you just by the way that you were born.
I am a spokesman for the disaffected white man because I am one, and you two are not. Candace Owens got married to British royalty worth $200 million after meeting him for 2 weeks on Zoom. What the fuck is even that about?
Is that true? And I heard this. I was going to ask the viewers, is that true? Not that matters, but is it true? You know, maybe people can tell me in the comments, like, this is getting deeply, like, I told you it's funny. Like, he's going there. He's really going there. Oh my God. Mason said, yes, it's true. Really? After 2 weeks? God damn. Like, what? Oh my God.
And Tucker Carlson's dad ran the CIA's propaganda empire fighting the Soviet Union. He went and fought with the Contras when he was in college. When I was in college, I was doing a webcam show in my friend's dorm room criticizing Israel. So who's the CIA cutout? Who's the inauthentic one? Who's the crazy, hateful one? I would never describe a well-meaning young white person who's trying to get ahead as a weird kid in his basement from Chicago. And what is that supposed to mean? What is wrong with being from Chicago? What is wrong with being weird? What is wrong with living in your basement? That's a lot of people because of the problems you claim to care about. Tucker's at Turning Point USA extolling the predatory nature of usury and how it's preventing young white men from getting homes. And then the week after says, you're in your mom's basement. So which is it? Do you care about Klarna and people going into debt to order pizzas and home ownership being impossible? Or do you think that's a contemptible, low status thing to be ridiculed and mocked?
Yeah, this is Janine said the amount of mic drops. It's wild, man. Yeah, this is a really good point. Someone said in the chat, they said, what's wrong with being, oh yeah, Sally said, what is wrong with being gay? Yeah, I feel like Tucker Carlson really didn't have to mention that. He could have left that part out. But like I said, I don't even know if that's true, but I just don't understand why he had to say that.
Who's pandering here? Exactly. Because that wasn't you. You were born to the Swanson family fortune and your daddy who ran the CIA. You know, my dad didn't even graduate college. My dad worked for the tollway. His dad died of a drug overdose in the 70s. My mother's father was a garbage man in Chicago, and he committed suicide. He was a veteran of World War II. Who's the CIA cutout? Who's the poser? Who is America?
Ouch. This is brutal, you guys. I told you it was pretty crazy here. T Niga says he is definitely a white supremacist. Yeah, he is. And that's the other thing too. Like, but you wouldn't see Tucker, like, they're not really getting into that though. It's just well, yeah, I don't know. And and Justice said, Sabrina, many Mexicans are white supremacists. They just don't express it in the same ways that white Americans do. Yeah, that's a good point as well. But this is wild because what he's doing is, I guess, it seems like to me what Nick Fuentes is doing is that he's talking about the class difference. He's talking about how he didn't come from, you know, the type of upbringing that Tucker Carlson came from. Like it sounds like he came from a blue collar family and Tucker Carlson came from a family of wealth. And that's why I said Tucker Carlson would have been better off not mentioning the class issue. Like if you just disagree with what he said, just talk about the statements. But instead, the whole basement thing to me is cringe and is off-putting to quite a number of people, particularly in a time right now where the economy is still struggling. And your average Gen Z person in the United States can't afford to buy a home. And even some millennials can't afford to buy a home. So it's an out of touch remark, in my opinion.
I am America. Chicago is America. That's an American story. I didn't go to Yale Law School and suck Peter Thiel's dick and then get a sinecure at a venture capital firm advising Rebecca Mercer and writing Hillbilly Elegy and talking about it at the Aspen Institute. That's your biographical credibility? How? Many of these disaffected white people that love Trump because he's racist went to Yale Law School and got plucked out by Peter Thiel, whoever he even is. Peter Thiel with his fixation with the Antichrist, this homosexual who's involved with the CIA, who wants to live forever and govern the world with AI. Yeah.
And now here we go again with what does his sexuality have anything to do about this? You see what I mean? Because Peter Thiel, there's a lot of criticism that you can make about Peter Thiel. Another rich billionaire who really wants to surveil all of you. You talk about his surveillance. You can talk about, his connection to PayPal mafia. You can talk all about that, how he basically created JD Vance. You can get into all of those things, just how corrupt Peter Thiel is. But once again, you really ain't had to get into his sexuality. This is where I think some people just lose the fight. They really do. Stick to the issues.
That's really relatable. That's really relatable. Do another show with him and Curtis Yarvin. Do another show. Do the 47th show with JD Vance. It is insulting, and it is insulting to everybody's intelligence for Tucker to sit there and say he doesn't know his dad is in the CIA, for him to say that I'm in the CIA. What a joke. What a sick joke. Especially after everything that's happened to me. And unlike what Candace Owens says, she says, what happened to him when he was 18? What happened to me is ongoing. Okay? Unlike Candace Owens and Tucker, I never got a contract with Ben Shapiro and Rupert Murdoch. I was on Maker Support. I was on Patreon. I was on D Live. I had to fight for everything I have. I didn't get $1 million contract from Turning Point. I didn't get $20 million from Fox News. My daddy didn't get me a job in Arkansas.
Damn. Well, ladies and gents, if you didn't know much about Tucker Carlson's background, I guess you do now. But this is just kind of came like blah. You know what I mean? That's why I say you may be shocked. They all used to be on the side of, I guess, supporting Donald Trump and like the vision that he has or whatever. But it took, like Tucker Carlson said, that one statement. Tucker had that one interview, and it seems like Nick Fuentes watched that and just said, I'm going to destroy this dude. This is the class war, right? And I point this out because look at it this way. Both Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes are white. Nick Fuentes says he's a white American. This is about class between those two. That even at the end of the day, money talks. And I don't know, like maybe Tucker Carlson wants to interview Nick Fuentes, maybe he doesn't or whatever, but it's kind of like the people who risked everything or kind of lost a lot versus those who didn't lose anything because they played the game the right way. Now, I don't support Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson I don't support any of these people's like political ideologies. I don't share that ideology. But there is something to be said for those that like Tucker and Candace. I guess to what Nick is saying is that they played the game and that's why they are where they are. He did not play the game and that's why he is where he is. And I guess he feels as though they shouldn't look down on him because he wasn't willing to play the game. But that's how this business works, folks. This is how it is. And particularly YouTube media. Nick Fuentes is not on YouTube. I think he was kicked off. But in alternative media, I will call it that because some of the people ain't even independent. But in alternative media, this is how it is. Like people, some of us have really gotten it, some of us have really gotten it because we didn't move how we were told to move. Me choosing not to support Kamala Harris, I took a great hit for that, especially socially. I took a great hit for that because there were certain people in the space that got mad at me because I didn't want to play their game. And I said, no, I'm not going to support Kamala Harris. What are you going to do? You're going to support Trump? You're going to support Trump? Like, no, I'm not going to support Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for Jill Stein. And so, yeah, that's how it is when you don't play that game. They will, and then they start making videos about you and start saying how, they'll try to smear you and everything because I didn't want to play the game. Opportunities that presented itself to me, same thing. It sounds like Nick Fuentes may have had opportunities, but turned them down. There were opportunities that came my way that I turned down because it's not what I believe. But there are some that are willing to play that game. And those are the people that, for the most part, I think they seem to get more airtime. And I think that's what Nick Fuentes might be alluding to. Just letting you know, because things could have been very different. Now, I worked my ass off, but had I taken the opportunities that were offered to me, things would have been very different. Very different. And I think you would have seen me in other spaces. But I said no. I said, because I'm not going to support Kamala Harris. Sorry. That's how it is, man. You don't play that game, you out of here. You are out of here. Justice said it's a private club and you ain't in it. Yeah. And it happens on both sides too. So wild story, guys. Wild story. Let's get to the comments here. Went to the comments here. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Marlon. They won't take the people serious until they are forced to earn their vote. Leave the party, show them you are done with red and blue. Woke equals independence. Brenda, last week attended Mass Congressman Jake Auchincloss talk at Newton North. His peeps were silencing pro-Palestinian voices if we groaned at Jake's deflective answers. Other than that, it was good. Okay, interesting. We'll have to chat, Brenda. Thank you, AIR. Tucker lied, but Nick thinks all black people are low IQ, and that's why we are in our position. Yeah, he's a white supremacist too. It's just like, that's why I say when people say we need to have like a class movement, you can't have that with people until they renounce their racist ways. Thank you, Kenman. Candace's husband proposed over FaceTime. Romantic. What? How did I not know about this? You guys know everything. Thank you, Marlon. CIA tactics. If you don't have the truth, go with discredit the opposition. Ooh. Thank you, Roger. Lead Belly's line was about the Scottsboro boys. Okay, thank you. I knew it was there somewhere. Skylar said, I'm so glad I found your channel, Sabby. You always keep it real and honest. Thank you. Thanks, Skylar. Let's get to comment on Rockfin. Hey, hey, hey. All right. Thank you, Roger. Don't be fooled. Understand the 11th straight year's finance and investments, according to Forbes, has the most billionaires of all. Not some oligarch who owns a company paying workers in a factory. Remember, we aren't a production economy. Bezos, Musk hails from a time when people like Carnegie, Rockefeller, JP Morgan, Vanderbilt were common. Now they're the minority. Don't tax Elon, but seize the company. And thank you for the tip, DB Cooper III. Sabby, thanks for supporting truth. You are welcome. You are welcome. All right, guys, that is it for me. I hope you have a great Sunday evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've had a good time with me here. Sunday show is like, I think, my favorite live show to do because, I don't know, I feel like we laugh a lot on Sunday. There's always funny things that happen over the weekend. But that is it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night and keep up the fight. Yeah.